The wind was the only warning. Brielle's fingers scraped against cold concrete, her body already halfway over the edge of the building. 20 floors below, the lights of Seoul blurred into streaks of gold and red. She screamed the only name that mattered. Hyun-woo, help me. Behind her, Yoonji stood frozen, hands still stretched out from the push, eyes wide, not with fear for Brielle, but with the horror of what she had just done. And what was about to happen next would change everything. Hello, besties. Welcome to Afro-Korean Tales Stories. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment what time you're watching from, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more intense stories like this one. Now, let's get into it. 6 months earlier, Brielle Carter had no idea her life was about to change. She was 28 years old, born and raised in Los Angeles, the kind of woman who worked hard for everything she had. She grew up in a small house near Crenshaw with her mother, Mrs. Carter, and her older brother, Deacon. Her father had passed when she was young, so her mother raised both her children alone, working double shifts as a nurse to keep food on the table. Brielle studied fashion merchandising in college, and after years of working retail jobs in LA, she finally got the opportunity of a lifetime. A fashion buying company with offices in Seoul offered her a position. It was a huge move, but Brielle had always wanted to see the world outside of Los Angeles. Her mother was hesitant. Seoul, Brielle? That's so far from home, her mother said one evening, sitting at the kitchen table with worry lines on her forehead. Mama, this is the opportunity I've been praying for. I can't turn it down, Brielle replied, holding her mother's hand. Deacon, her older brother, wasn't as gentle about it. You don't know anybody out there. No family, no friends. You sure about this, sis? I have to try, Deacon. I can't stay here working retail forever, Brielle said, her voice firm but her eyes pleading for understanding. Eventually, her family supported her, even though it broke their hearts to see her go. Brielle packed her life into 2 suitcases and moved to Seoul. The first few months were hard. She struggled with the language, the culture, the loneliness. She missed her mother's cooking, she missed Deacon's jokes, she missed home. But slowly, she began to build a life. She made a close friend named Amara, a Nigerian-American content creator who had also moved to Seoul years before her. Amara showed her around the city, taught her which restaurants served the best food, and became like a sister to her in a foreign land. It was at a networking event for her company that Brielle first met Hyun-woo. He walked into the room like he owned it, tall, sharp-jawed, dressed in a dark suit that fit him perfectly. Every head turned when he entered, but he didn't seem to notice or care. He walked straight to the open bar, and that's where Brielle happened to be standing, trying to figure out what to order. You look confused, Hyun-woo said, his English carrying a light accent, his voice calm and low. Brielle laughed, a little embarrassed. I don't really drink much. I don't know what half these things are. He studied the menu for a second, then ordered something for her without asking. When the bartender handed her the glass, Hyun-woo said, Try it. If you don't like it, I'll order something else. She took a sip. It was sweet, with a hint of something strong underneath. Okay, that's actually good. I have good instincts, he said, the corner of his mouth lifting into a small smile. They talked for almost an hour that night about nothing important, really. Where she was from, what she did, why she moved to Seoul. Brielle didn't know at the time that the calm, well-dressed man she was talking to ran one of the most feared private security and import businesses in the country, a business with deep, dangerous roots that went far beyond legal paperwork. All she knew was that he made her laugh and he listened when she talked, really listened, like her words actually mattered to him. They started seeing each other after that night. Slowly at first, dinner here, a walk through Hongdae there. Hyun-woo was different from any man Brielle had dated before. He was quiet, careful with his words, but there was an intensity in him that she couldn't ignore. He would show up at her apartment with food when she mentioned she'd had a rough day at work. He remembered small details, like her fear of pigeons or the fact that she took her coffee with too much cream. You spoil me, Brielle told him one night, sitting on his balcony that overlooked the Han River. Is that a bad thing? He asked, watching her with those intense eyes. No, she said softly. It's just not what I expected when I moved here. He reached over and took her hand. I don't do this with just anyone, Brielle. You should know that. She believed him. And over time, she fell in love with him, deeply, in a way she hadn't expected to fall for anyone, let alone someone from a completely different world than hers. But not everyone was happy about their relationship. Yoon-ji, Hyun-woo's younger sister, hated Brielle from the moment she found out about her. Yoon-ji was 27, sharp-featured, always polished, always in control, or at least she liked people to believe she was. She had grown up under the shadow of her older brother, watching their father groom Hyun-woo to take over the family business, while she was expected to marry well and stay quiet. Their mother had died when Yoon-ji was only 16, and on her deathbed, she had made Yoon-ji promise something. Take care of this family's name. Make sure your brother marries someone who understands our world, someone Korean, someone who will protect what we've built. Yoon-ji held on to those words like scripture. She believed it was her duty, her purpose, to make sure her mother's wishes were honored. When she first heard that Hyun-woo was seeing a Black American woman, she assumed it was a phase, something temporary, a distraction he'd grow tired of. But months passed, and the relationship only grew stronger. Yoon-ji watched her brother, a man who rarely smiled, start smiling more. She watched him check his phone throughout the day like a teenager. She watched him bring Brielle to family gatherings, introducing her with a pride Yoon-ji had never seen him show for anyone. It ate at her. Slowly, quietly, it ate at her. You can't be serious about her, Yoon-ji said to Hyun-woo one afternoon at their father's estate, her arms crossed, her voice tight. Serious about what, Yoon-ji? Hyun-woo asked, not even looking up from the documents on his desk.
Brielle.
This isn't who you're supposed to end up with. Mother wanted. Don't. Hyun-woo cut her off, finally looking up, his eyes suddenly sharp. Don't use mother to control who I love. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to protect this family. Yoon-ji snapped back, her voice rising. Do you know what people will say? Do you know how it looks? I don't care how it looks, Hyun-woo said, standing up from his desk, towering over his sister. Brielle makes me happy. That should be enough for you. Yoon-ji left the estate that day with her fists clenched, her chest tight with a resentment she couldn't fully explain even to herself. It wasn't just about family honor anymore. It was about fear. Fear that she was losing her brother. Fear that this woman was going to take the one person who had always protected her and make him forget about his own sister. She began to distance herself from family events whenever Brielle was present. She would arrive late, leave early, offer cold greetings and colder smiles. Brielle noticed, of course. Anyone would have noticed. But she tried her best to be kind, to be patient, hoping that with time, Yoon-ji would come around. She doesn't like me, Brielle said to Amara one evening over dinner at a small restaurant in Itaewon. Sisters can be like that, Amara said, shrugging as she picked up a piece of grilled meat with her chopsticks. My brother's wife took almost 2 years before she warmed up to me, and I wasn't even dating anybody dangerous like your man. Brielle laughed softly, but there was worry behind her eyes. It's not just that she doesn't like me.
It feels deeper than that.
Like she resents me for something. Maybe she does, Amara said honestly. But that's her problem to work through, not yours. Don't let her make you feel small in a love that's real. Brielle held on to those words, but the tension with Yoon-ji only grew worse as the months passed. Hyun-woo tried talking to his sister multiple times, but every conversation ended the same way, with Yoon-ji storming off, feeling unheard, feeling replaced. Then came the night that changed everything. It was Hyun-woo's father's 70th birthday celebration, held on the rooftop of one of the tallest buildings the family owned in Gangnam. The entire extended family was there, along with business partners, close friends, and important guests. String lights hung above the rooftop, casting a warm golden glow over the guests as the sun began to set behind Namsan Tower in the distance.
It was supposed to be a beautiful night.
Brielle wore a simple cream-colored dress, her braids styled elegantly, a small clutch in her hand. She stood near the edge of the rooftop with Jiho, Hyun-woo's right-hand man and close friend, who had always been kind to her, treating her like family from the very first day they met. You look nervous, Jiho said, handing her a glass of sparkling water since she didn't drink much. Big crowd tonight, Brielle admitted, glancing around at the unfamiliar faces, most of them speaking rapid Korean she still struggled to fully understand. You'll be fine. Hyun-woo won't leave your side for long, Jiho reassured her with a small smile. But Hyun-woo had been pulled away by his father to greet important business associates, leaving Brielle standing near the edge of the rooftop, admiring the view of the city lights beginning to twinkle below. That's when Yoon-ji approached her. Enjoying the party? Yoon-ji asked, her voice sweet. Too sweet, the kind of sweetness that made Brielle's stomach tighten with unease. It's beautiful up here, Brielle replied carefully, trying to keep things polite. You know, Yoon-ji said, stepping closer, her eyes cold despite the smile on her face. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. Oh, Brielle said, unsure where this was going. About how far you've come. From Los Angeles to here, standing on a rooftop that my family built, wearing clothes my brother probably bought for you, pretending you belong somewhere you don't. Brielle's chest tightened, but she kept her voice calm. Yoon-ji, I don't want any trouble tonight. It's your father's birthday. I'm not trying to cause trouble, Yoon-ji said, taking another step forward, her voice dropping lower. I'm just wondering how long you plan on pretending to be something you're not. I'm not pretending anything, Brielle said, her voice firmer now, standing her ground even as her back was inches from the low glass barrier separating the rooftop from a 20-story drop. I love your brother. That's not pretend. Something in Yoon-ji's eyes shifted at those words, something dark and desperate. You don't get to say that. You don't get to love him. He's not yours to love. Yoon-ji. Brielle started, reaching a hand out, trying to de-escalate whatever was happening. But Yoon-ji's hand shot forward, striking Brielle's chest with a force that came from somewhere deep and broken inside her, somewhere that had been building for months. Brielle stumbled backward, her heel catching against the base of the glass barrier. Her body tipped over the edge before she could even process what was happening. Her hands grasped desperately at the concrete ledge as her legs kicked out over open air, 20 floors above the streets of Gangnam. Yoon-ji, what did you do? Brielle screamed, terror flooding through every part of her body, her fingers burning as she clung to the ledge with everything she had. Yoon-ji stood there, frozen, her hands still outstretched from the push, her mouth slightly open, but no sound coming out. For a moment it looked like shock. For a moment it even looked like regret. But she didn't move to help. She didn't reach out. She just stood there, watching. Somebody help me, Brielle screamed again, her voice cracking with panic, her fingers slipping against the smooth concrete. Please. Somebody help me. Across the rooftop, Hyun-woo heard the scream and turned instantly, his conversation with the business associates forgotten mid-sentence. His eyes found Brielle's hands gripping the ledge, her body hanging over open air, and everything in him went cold and sharp at the same time. He moved faster than anyone on that rooftop had ever seen him move, shoving past guests, knocking over a table of drinks, his heart pounding against his ribs like it was trying to escape his chest. Brielle, he shouted, his voice raw with fear. He reached the ledge just as her fingers began to slip. Diving forward, he grabbed her wrist with both hands, the force of catching her nearly pulling him over the edge with her. Guests screamed and gasped behind him. Someone grabbed the back of his jacket, helping to anchor him as he pulled with everything he had, muscles straining, teeth clenched, refusing to let go. I've got you. I've got you, don't let go, he shouted down at her, his voice breaking. Hyun-woo. Brielle sobbed, her other hand reaching up to grip his forearm, her body swinging slightly against the side of the building. With one final pull, aided by Jiho who had rushed over to help brace him, Hyun-woo hauled Brielle back over the ledge and onto the solid concrete of the rooftop. They collapsed together, Brielle shaking uncontrollably, sobbing into his chest as he wrapped his arms around her, his own body trembling with adrenaline and shock. You're okay. You're okay. I've got you. He kept repeating, his hand cradling the back of her head, his eyes squeezed shut with relief. But then he looked up. He looked past the crowd of stunned guests, past his father who stood pale-faced near the drink table, and his eyes landed on his sister. Yoonji hadn't moved. She stood exactly where she had been standing when she pushed Brielle, her hands now hanging limply at her sides, her face unreadable, somewhere between shock and something colder. She hadn't screamed for help. She hadn't tried to grab Brielle. She hadn't done a single thing to save the woman she had just shoved off the edge of a 20-story building. She had simply stood there and watched. Brielle, still trembling in Hyun-woo's arms, lifted her head slightly, her eyes finding Yoonji across the rooftop. And in a voice loud enough for everyone present to hear, shaking but clear, she said the words that would haunt that family for years to come. "Please help me. She's trying to push me off." The rooftop fell into complete silence. Every guest, every family member, every business partner stood frozen, staring between Brielle, shaking in Hyun-woo's arms, and Yoonji, standing motionless with her hands still slightly raised from the push she had given only moments before. Hyun-woo slowly stood up, still holding Brielle close to his side, his eyes never leaving his sister's face. The warmth that had been in his eyes moments ago, the fear, the relief, all of it drained away, replaced by something cold and hard that none of the guests had ever seen on his face before. "Yoonji," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Tell me that's not true." Yoonji opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes darted around at the crowd of witnesses, at her father's shocked expression, at the woman she had just tried to hurt still shaking against her brother's chest. "Hyun-woo, she started, her voice trembling now. "Did you push her?" he asked again, each word sharp and controlled, the calmness in his voice somehow more terrifying than if he had shouted. Yoonji's silence answered the question before her words ever could. And that silence was about to cost her everything. If you're feeling the tension right now, that's exactly where I want you, because this story is only getting started and what happens next will leave you speechless. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss part 2, because trust me, you do not want to miss how this family gets torn apart and how karma finds its way back to the one person who thought she'd gotten away with it.